Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited for today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode. When it comes to leadership, I believe in a few fundamental principles. Start each day with gratitude, stay curious, ask questions, and continue to learn. Remain consistent and loyal. Be the servant leader you want to have. Give back and care for others. Kerry Cole, our guest today. Wow. They are a great friend, someone that we deeply care about here at Culture Matters, and someone that literally I hear like my ears are, or their ears have to be constantly ringing because I have so many guests on the show that have mentioned our guest name. So if you listen to the show as obsessively as I'm doing the dang show, you heard their name and you finally get to meet SVP of lending at EPM, a leader in an awesome industry that helps all our lives. The one and only Kerry Cole. Thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. Finally, it's like we finally caught you in the wild.
Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Jay.
So I got to ask first this quote, right? Start each day with gratitude. Was that something that you always done because you've been in the mortgage industry, at least as far as I think I know, going on 24, 25 years?
25 years this month.
Holy cow. Yeah, you have a birthday coming up. This is exciting. On the 14th, congratulations
Yes.
for that.
Thank you.
Making
That's a
that.
big birthday too. It's
Yeah.
gonna be 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you were a little girl, were you thinking about being a mortgage professional?
Absolutely not. Just like most other people, I kind of fell into this. I had dreams and desires of being a news reporter. And here I am in
Oh,
mortgage, using communication every day.
did you pursue the reporting at all ever?
Well, I have a communications degree, and that's what I was supposed to. That was going to be my path, but I fell into mortgage in October of '99.
If there are any things that you learned in that or ways of communicating and being professional, what would you say has translated to be very helpful in the space of mortgage? I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it is communication. Like I joke around a lot, like I have this communication degree, but I use it every day, right? It's listening, it's leaning into what other people are saying. It's being able to take that information and really be able to help other people. So I do think that communication is huge in our industry.
So back to the gratitude. Were you great? Were you have you always been a grateful person, or were you maybe like me, ungrateful and then realized it had to be
So,
grateful?
so I think I've always been a grateful person. I think it's magnified more as I've gotten older, seen, with my children, different things. My dad used to always say to us, and he still says this, do you have a roof over your head? You have food on your table? You have clothes on your back? You are better than most people out there. And knowing that, right, and being grateful for that, everything else falls into place.
What did he do?
My dad was a truck driver.
Was that his passion, or what did he do it?
Not at all.
Passion to serve the
No,
kids and
no, that's,
support? And,
he just, he always worked hard. I'm one of seven children. So he always had to be
wow.
out there, working hard for the family. And he was a truck driver, for many, many years. Yeah.
Wasn't your mom a bartender?
Yep. My mom was a
Yeah,
bartender
just
for like
yeah.
37 years, which is insanely crazy if you think about that. But yes.
Was that like Cheers? You ever see that show
Well,
Cheers?
yes, yes, it was like Cheers. She worked in Bayonne, New Jersey, and there was a local tavern that she worked for, and she worked there, very loyal to the family, worked for them for many, many years. She worked for the parents initially. The parents passed, and then, eventually the sons took over the business, and she worked for them before she retired.
What advice do you have for those that are listening, want to build a loyal customer base? Because I believe that's probably a genius of yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, I take a lot from my mom, right? When talking about a loyal customer base.
Yeah.
She was a bartender, right? So what does a bartender do, right? They take care of their regulars, right? They're regulars. So in my house, like there was always stories about Tommy and Karen or Worm or Rocky, from the kitchen. Like those were always stories, right? My family knew. Like my mom would share those people with us, those
Whoa,
characters from her regulars, right?
that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do the same with my family. Like my family knows my regular clients, right? They know, my friends, my from Florida. They know like the different brokers that I work with throughout the country. Those are my regulars. You take care
Wow.
of your regulars, they take care of you.
Um, wow. That's unbelievable. Yeah. What do you think is where people struggle with that? Like that may be listening, that might seem almost common sense to them, but they're not actually doing it in their behavior.
So I think, right, with anything, you could probably get frustrated with your regulars, right? Like, like I'm sure my mom sat there and heard the
Yeah.
same story from that same guy like 30 times over, and like he didn't do anything different about it, right? So I think you could get frustrated with them, but you could choose that path or you can lean into it and try to make it better, take something off of their plate.
Sounds like coaching.
Probably very similar.
Stay curious, ask questions, continue to learn. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. And I think that's in this business because there's so many different parts of it and so much to learn about it. There's always something new. Um, yeah, there's nothing. There's so many different segments of this business, so many different channels, so many different products. It's never a dull moment. Like there is always learning going on. Always learning. I am always learning.
For those that don't know what it is that you do, how would you describe your profession to, let's say, someone firstly outside of the mortgage industry?
So I once had it described to me as a pressure cooker situation where you have urgency on every single task throughout the file, and there's like 1,000 different tasks that need to be accomplished. So it is very intense, but also very, very rewarding. There's always a twist and a turn. There's 1,000 details that go into a mortgage file, and you're striving to get them all perfect. Sometimes things fall off track, and trying to recover and get things back on track as quick as possible.
Who are the key relationships that you're essentially leading or serving?
So, I mean, I think there's various. You have your client base. So, brokers. You're serving them. You're serving the bars that they serve. As well. You're taking ownership of that and taking a small part in that. There's other teammates here at EPM. Whether it's someone directly on my team, or there's other people that come and ask questions, mentorship type of questions. You're serving them too.
Hmm. What are the big struggles or the natural struggles of brokers as they grow their business?
I think it's I think every business faces it's scaling, right? And it is, this is what I do at a very, very high level. Now, how do I scale that and get others to, meet that? And I think, I see brokers, struggle with that. I see lenders struggle with that. It's the scaling.
I'm curious if what values are would be foundational to being an account executive. Like if
What
we,
values?
yeah, or like, yeah, values, yeah, character attributes. Like if we were to create the worst account executive ever, I always like to think of things backwards.
Okay.
What character traits would we put on a list?
On the worst.
Yeah, just like, maybe it's something else is for them.
So I think, right, one of the worst characteristics would be not caring or not caring, right? I think you're clients need to know that you care enough, that you're engaged when they pass you that baton, that you are going to carry it through to the finish line, that you have the same goal that they do. Um, so if you're not going to care, about what they truly care about, what they're passionate about helping that client get to the finish line. So if you don't have that, I think you're not getting out of the gates.
What
And that's
else?
not any skill or anything, right? Like you just
Hmm.
have that, right? You either care or you don't.
Hmm. What else?
I think that if you're do more talking than listening, I think that would be a bad quality for an account executive. What I have found is that, brokers like to talk. They like to, share with you, what's working, what's not, what's working at this lender, what is the pain point at this other lender. And when you listen and digest that and take that in, you could figure out, well, how can I help them here with, here at EPM with what I have to work with? This is
Hmm.
their pain point over here. Let me see how I can add value here. So I think listening, if you're not a good listener, you're not going to be a great account executive.
But you mentioned intensity earlier, lots of tasks,
Yep.
very intense. What type of, let's say, mental preparation would I need to go into that degree of intensity? How can let's say someone's listening to this that has really a passion to further their career in that profession. How do they need to be approaching their mental, their fortitude, their let's say that preparation? Like, what's the real expectation? Because that's what I'm trying to.
So I think one of the, I mean, is you're going to be resilient, right? Like there's going to be things. I hate to say it, but there's a certain expectation. Like there are going to be failures along the way. There are going to be mistakes, and how you grow from that, how you learn from it. How did that sales conversation go? Was it net neutral? Was it net positive? Was it net negative? Like what could I have done differently? Could you have, said something differently? You said it this way, 98 out of 100 people got it and good, but two people didn't. So how could you control that conversation different? So maybe you're hitting 100 out of 100 people,
Hmm.
with what your, intention is. And I think a lot with mortgage in general, but especially in the account executive role, what I like to equate it to, you ever see people who spin plates, on the spindles, and they get all these spindles, these plates going, everything's, they're spinning. Oh, one's crashed over there. But you got to keep these other, plates still spinning. And, there's a lot of action always going on in mortgage.
Hmm.
There's always something happening.
I want to make sure I'm following you, like in my a visualization. If I'm having this relationship with a broker, I'm servicing, I'm listening, I'm asking those questions to understand what their needs are, assessing that, attempting to work with between my organization and them to get them what they need, while simultaneously I might be doing that with multiple at the exact same time and different needs while potentially staying in touch with those that I'm not currently right now working on anything, as well as trying to get new relationships.
Yes.
And so how the hell is that done? Yeah, that would be like if there was an order of things. Do you have like, even if it's habitual, uh, this comes first, this comes second. There's almost like a hierarchy of it's like, here's the visual. When I'm on the airplane, put the oxygen mask on
Yep.
yourself first, and then watch your child. What would be the oxygen mask in your view, from your tenure and
So
wisdom?
I think knowing that you need to do one loan before you get to 100 loans, right? Like with that partner. I think everybody just wants to jump to like, hey, I've got this producing partner, 100 loans a month. Yeah, you have to be willing to navigate that and be in the weeds from loan number one. And you might be, to your point, right? Like loan number one with one partner, but you might be on loan number 99 with another partner. And there are different needs, that we serve for each account executive. And I don't think that it is a one size fits all, right? Because some of my partners need certain things. Some of my partners need other things. Some of my partners, they just need, sometimes it's just encouragement. Like, let's go out there, let's find some more loans, and it's really interesting how you could fulfill, different needs and add different values for different people.
Have you always considered them your partners? You,
Yes, absolutely. I
wow.
I I take a lot of pride in knowing that they're passing me a baton. When I think about broker partners and when they, submit, let's say, a new loan to EPM, I feel like it's a vote of confidence, right? It's a vote of confidence of they are going to get this done for me. They are going to get me paid. Like they're, they are going to get this client to the finish line. So there's a sense of ownership that comes along with that. Like it's not just a new loan submission, right? Like we have a job to do. We have to, they're passing us the baton to get this to the finish line.
Wow.
And knowing that you share that same goal as the partner, I think it goes a long way. They feel confident passing that baton to you.
When you were at your, so you're at what, it's late 90s, is that champion?
Champion
Did you feel
Mortgage,
like a champion? What was was there early mentorship that kind of
you
led
know,
your path?
that was a really, really fun, exciting, great company to work for. Subprime lending. The it's very interesting. Like we used to have underwriting in the office, and we'd get that last. We'd call them stips then. Now they're called conditions, but we'd get that last stip in. We would literally run those files over to the underwriter. Okay, let's go get the clear to close. And yes, we got the clear to close. High
Uh-huh.
five, bring it over to closing. And there was this
Wow.
excitement and this momentum, when you were going through, a file. But that company had great training. There's so many different companies that grew out of that particular company. So many great people in the industry. Some people that you bump into along the way at different companies and throughout your career. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah. Now I saw you were at the money store. I didn't realize that. That's where
Yeah.
our guest of the Culture Matters podcast, if any of the listeners that are big fans, Phil Mancuso has been on the show more times than I can count.
Yes.
How did you guys meet?
So actually, I worked for the money store for a short period of time, but my brother was in the industry and he was working there, and he,
Wow.
pulled me in to work there.
Is he still working in the industry?
No, he's no longer in the industry. But, it's interesting, like out of the seven of us, four of us have worked in the mortgage industry.
Really?
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
how much was it, were you the influencer in that?
I was the first one and I had brought my brother in to
Mm.
champion many years ago. Yes.
Right now in the current market, could do you believe people can be successful? We've had a lot of different points of view over the last year and a half on the show. What's
Hmm.
your take on it? Can people be successful today in the
100%.
business?
100%. And I think it comes down to, are you hungry, right? Like if I told you, it blows my mind up sometimes thinking about our industry and how many people are very successful and thriving in our industry. And for me, I talk to people, I answer my phone, navigate their loan through the process. It amazes me that, yes, you can be successful. Yes, you could be, having a wonderful livelihood by just, doing some basic things. So I think people could be successful in any market, good market, bad market. It might be different. It might be success might look different. You might have to learn a new loan product, talk about continually learning.
Mhm.
I remember back in 2016, while I was here at EPM, I was doing a lot of VA IRRRLs at that time. And right after the elections, rates moved up pretty quickly. And I really wasn't diversified in the broker base, and I was just doing these VA IRRRLs. Well, all of a sudden, I didn't have any, net tangible benefit, couldn't do those type of loans anymore. I had a sales leader that said to me, Kerry, you're going to learn renovation lending. I said, okay, I know nothing about it, hadn't touched it. People steer clear of it. And I learned it. And you know what? It has helped me through markets that have been challenging because those are the loans you'll always be able to do renovation lending. So in my opinion, you could be successful in any market. How how much you put into it, right, is what you're going to get out of it. If you make 2 calls and think you were going to, be okay with 2 calls, well, that's the kind of success you're going to have. If you're willing to make 100 calls, well, you're going to have a different level of success.
And how often would you do that? And as you were building your career, did you find yourself in a certain time of day, or like a weekly commitment, or like what? Yeah. How did that develop?
Like as far as learning new things, or
Calling and staying in
so,
touch with people.
I mean, that's daily routine, right?
Okay.
That has to be part of your daily routine. And if you're not getting the numbers that you want at the end, like the funded numbers, right? Like that's the ultimate measurement of, how many units, how much volume have you done in sales? Well, if you're not happy with that, you need to pick up your activity, because your activity is directly related to the end result, right? And some days, right? When I, before I did wholesale, I was a loan originator, and I would have a results list. And some days, I worked in a call center model, and we would take bank rate leads. I would call up to 100 people a day.
Wow.
And some days have zero success with calling 100 people. Some days I could only get to 10, and maybe I made 6 sales out of that
Would
first
you
10.
be on 100 conversations?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
How did you? What advice do you have someone that's phone shy?
That it's that's how you communicate with people. I mean, if you're not going to get on the phone, maybe this type of environment where it's over video. But something like, you think you're going to send an email and develop a relationship, that's not a relationship, right?
Wait,
Like,
really?
for real, for real, for real, that's like delete.
That's true. People just delete them.
Mhm. Mhm.
What would be your advice to our listeners about handling rejection?
Handling rejection, I think, use it in a positive way. When someone's saying no, right, that may give you an alternative of looking in the way that you do things. I analyze conversations all the time. Like if I'm in that net negative, right, that rejection, like I felt it on that conversation, I'm thinking about how can I have this conversation, right, and to at least move it over to a net neutral, hopefully a net positive.
Hmm.
It's one conversation at a time.
How do you handle, let's say, uh, how do you burden or handle the customer's problems without becoming defensive to where you can't help them?
So I learned that early, right? That
Yeah.
was something I needed to learn. I remember this one broker partner, still my broker partner. Um, I remember when I first started, and he would, sometimes be upset with us. I would yell back. That was not great, because I learned, nope, that's not going to help. But then I learned this tactic that has helped me tremendously. Someone told me once that when if you're in that situation, that it is an intense conversation, maybe you're being yelled at, don't bring your voice down, because if you bring your voice down, they're going to have to lean in and listen more, and then you could probably get to the point of actually having a conversation.
Wow, that's great advice.
Yeah.
So like talk lower,
Yeah.
because then they won't be able to really hear, and then they might calm down.
Correct.
That's like, if you ever see movies where the person's trying to calm down the lion or the
Yeah.
tiger or whatever, or they get the horse so they
Yeah.
can jump on the horse. That's really great advice. Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
What about the transition from uh, originator? So consumer is my partner,
Mm-hmm.
to account executive, broker is my partner. It Are there certain things that have to be cast away, and uh there's certain things that we have to be careful not to lose as we make those
So
transitions? Um,
I think I mean, for me, it was a scary transition when I did it. And I did that here at EPM, because when I originally came to EPM, I came in as a loan originator.
wow.
And then, Phil Mancuso let me know that, hey, we're gonna start this wholesale division. I think your skills will transfer over nicely. And I didn't know what an account executive was. I didn't quite know what wholesale was. Had no broker base. didn't know, we didn't know. We were learning. We learned a lot. But I do think those skills, do transfer over, right? Because it's just you're still leaning in, you're still listening to the needs, trying to see, how you can help them fulfill those needs, through your organization. Um, the interesting thing, what I like about, the transition from, going from working directly with the consumer to directly working with, a broker partner, it's different in the sense that if you work directly with consumers, likely you're only going to have so many transactions with them, right?
Mm,
And I would argue that
yep.
maintaining broker relationships may be a little bit more challenging than to maybe deal with a consumer that you're going to have a few transactions with. Maybe you're lucky, maybe you get up to six transactions from, that particular bar. Maybe that's probably on the high side, based on, people's, their needs of living in the properties.
Mm.
But I think on the broker side, it allows you to get to a higher level, this partnership, because they're moving and they're changing, and is EPM still fulfilling their needs, with the type of company that they are.
Wow. What drives you?
What drives me? So I I really think what I do is important work. And, I'm not a doctor. I don't, I don't save people's lives or anything like that. But I do know that we play a small, important role in people's lives, right? And the crazy thing about mortgage to me is we sell something that nobody really truly wants, right? Who wants a mortgage? Nobody's raising their hand saying, give me that $500,000 mortgage. Nobody. You know what they want? They want the holidays at the house. They want the family barbecue in the backyard. They want to, take that picture on the stairs of all the kids, throughout the years, in the same order every year. That's what they want, right? So that drives me. Like, and then, like everybody wants that, that home.
I love that.
Not a mortgage. People don't want what we sell.
Holidays, family barbecue. I mean, that builds our culture.
Yes. Yes.
And I just led me if I have a mortgage that I'm accountable to that mortgage, I better be a responsible person. I better get my ass up
Yes.
and go to work.
Right.
Maybe if I have a little bit less mortgage, I'll
Right.
sleep in on Saturday.
Right.
Or you know what? I'm eating Cheetos and I'm in the hospital.
And that's not
I
good.
need a doctor.
Yeah.
Like it just like I love your direction to family, holidays, barbecue because you know, what's the whole point of work if we don't have
Right.
all that?
Right.
I'm curious about where you see people go astray as, let's say, they're in that professional service. They're starting to get success. They're starting to have a lot of things come towards them. They put in the work. Are there advice that you give to the up and comers that are going to listen to this that are in the profession of account, the account executive of how to avoid some of the pitfalls? I'm sure you've seen over the
Yeah.
last almost it's what 11.7 to almost 12 years of and you're at the top in the country. So people need to listen very, you're very humble. But yeah, pitfalls where you've seen people that are succeeding just
So
drop the ball.
I think, taking things for granted, thinking that things are never going to change. Like I've reached this level of success. Like I did it in 2016. I thought I was incredible doing all these loans. And then the market changed. Well, I got complacent. I didn't know that I needed to be diversified and I needed to learn other things. Through my experience, I know that now. Um, but I think getting complacent, I think you can't take these relationships for granted. I think you still need to nurture, people, whether it's their first loan or their thousandth loan with you, um,
Wow.
because things change. You've got to nurture the relationship and always be willing to be part of it and not take it for granted.
What's your philosophy on riding through the rough times with your broker partners?
My philosophy on that is usually, tune out distractions, focus on the basics, right? If you focus on the basics, you're still building. I've seen some broker partners still incredibly build over the last 2 years in these difficult markets. They're not doing anything amazing. They're just doing out more activity than other people. they're out working. They're out working other people.
How many hours a week would you say they're working more than others on average? If you intuitively like,
I'd say probably an extra 10 to 15 hours, and maybe it's not so much the quantity of the hours, but how are they spending it? Are they developing those relationships? Just like we have to develop relationships with our partner, are they developing it with their realtor partners, their attorney referrals? Are they,
Mhm.
seeking those out?
Yeah, I should say, we're doing this at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday.
Thank you.
How important have yeah, I love the weekend. How important have, if at all, weekends been in your career for working on yourself, your business, as well as time for family? Like, and how do you balance that?
Yeah, so weekend has always been very important to get, for me personally, to get a few hours in, whether it's to get myself organized for the week, whether to lay out my plan for the week, whether it's to look back at, hey, that wasn't so great. What do I need to be doing differently? So I do like that. Obviously, weekends, a lot of family stuff. With my children, they tend to keep my calendar pretty busy, and I love it, love it, love it, love it. That's definitely part of, whether it's the cross country meets or football games or marching. Today we have a parade that my son's marching in, so it's
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, how do you balance that and still have such success? Like,
Yeah,
that's something
so
I'm afraid of as, we're gonna bear offspring. Like,
so
how am I
so
gonna do it all?
so you know what? My families know my regular, right? My children know my broker partners, right? It's part of this is our life. I've been working from home since 2005, before
Wow.
it was even a thing. And this is all they know. So, I think they could probably pretty much talk mortgage too, just overhearing my conversations. And, when I'm, doing the driving back and forth to practice, they're hearing me on the phone, with the clients and trying to make things happen.
Wow, they're gonna be successful. This reminds me of a conversation I had the other day with Hubert and Chris Vester, who when Chris was 5, they all ran a farm, the whole family, and everyone was doing a job.
Yeah.
It's like the farming culture, and it's amazing what it does.
Yep.
That's so powerful. How do you remain consistent though? So,
So
like, is it,
it, I
is it
routines.
mindfulness? Is it,
Yeah.
you're doing jumping jacks at 3 AM? What's the
Definitely not jumping jacks at 3 a.m. However, I think just consistency. Like there's a couple things I do, each and every day. One of them starting the day with gratitude. Like I try to, you know, bring out like a positive outlook of every day. There's certain things I look at, in the pipeline numbers wise. I do that habitually every single day. Measuring myself, right? At the end of the day in sales, like ultimately you're accountable to to yourself. Like who are you looking at in the mirror? If you're not happy with your results, what are you going to do differently? And those are the, things I do have those conversations, in my mind, and trying to outline my day, each and every day.
Oh, what about avoiding or embracing tough conversations? What advice do you have?
So I think those are easy in some ways, when you do have that relationship, when you can, say, hey, I understand, this is what I'm hearing you, and then, just being able to pivot and, potentially, redirect that.
When you have the relationship over a longer extended period of time that you've maintained, saying what you think is easy.
Absolutely.
But if the
Absolutely.
people listening skip that,
Yeah.
there's that anxiety. Oh, I gotta what if I lose the relation? That's
Yeah.
actually a genius hack. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It becomes
It's
more natural.
it's very, very natural. And I mean, we've been fortunate that some of the partners, we work with, I've been working with them more than 10 years now. So those it becomes friendships,
The
family.
speed of trust.
Um,
You ever heard
yeah,
that? Stephen Covey?
I have not.
There's a book called The Speed of Trust. It's
Okay.
Stephen Covey's son. I think you're living it so hard. It's amazing. Well, because what my thought is, just speculating, what could that do to the pipeline of an account executive that omits or
Yeah.
avoids?
Yeah.
I mean, slow everything down. It'd be
Right.
the sloth of fear,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So So Kevin Delory will say, bad news is best served hot, right?
I
Like,
love that.
and early in my career, I did have the sales manager when I first started. And I remember I was stressed out when I was originating because I had my first low appraisal. I was so stressed out. How was I going to tell this bar that their house didn't appraise? And my manager at the time, he said, Carrie, he's like, take the medicine and take it early. Just get it over with. And what I have found is those hard conversations only get harder if you delay them, right? Because then you have all this nervous energy, this anxiety of how
Oh
I'm going to
yeah.
deliver this news. Just get it over with, move on. And you know what? Usually, then you're working on the solution. You're in the solution oriented like mindset, and you have them with you, and it just works.
By the time I finally say what I think, I sound like a crazy person.
Yes.
I'm just speaking from experience. I when I was preparing, I saw Parsippany. My mom used to work in Parsippany. How are you're from that area?
Yeah, originally from Bayonne, New Jersey.
Yeah, wow. And you were in Florham Park and like all the North Jersey people, if they
Yep.
don't know the show. Born in Newark and grew up Cedar Grove, all those areas. So it was like a culture shock looking at and then you ended up working. What state are you in now?
I'm in New York. I'm in Western New York, about an
Wow.
hour and a half from Niagara Falls, Canada.
Hey, what advice do you have for the people that are newer to working from home of how to stay productive that are not used to it? I mean, you're like 20
Uh,
years into that.
I would say you actually have to work. I know that sounds, there's so many distractions, that you can have on a regular basis, but you have to get in your work zone. You have to, do your routines. Just like in the office, you could be distracted by someone talking over at the water cooler. Like that can happen at home too. You just have to manage your distractions, limit your distractions, put the time in. Even if it is from home. Last year I had the opportunity to work back in an office for a little bit while we were doing some renovations. And that was such a weird experience for me going back to working in an office after, so many years not
Mm.
working in an office. But I would say routines definitely help for, anybody new to working at home.
How do you unify through collaboration?
Think through conversations. I think that helps. I think asking questions, trying to gain an understanding of, you know, the other side of the situation, whatever it might be. And it is good to have those internal relationships, right? Like they're just equally as important, if not more important than those external relationships. And
Mm.
being able to have the conversations to, get on the same page.
If I'm going to act out, show the way, what are some ways to go about doing that
To
as
show the way. I mean,
yeah,
I think you just got to do it, right? Like, be a good, person, and that you're doing the tasks that you're supposed to. You're having the hard conversations. You're embracing the conflict if there's conflict. Um, and I don't know. I think you just show the way by showing the way, right? Like that's the only way to do
it's
it.
like we should, pass the buck.
Yeah,
That's
no,
that's the inverse.
yeah, no.
What happens to people in the industry that pass the buck?
They flame out, like it's they're going to fade away. Like it's you've got to take ownership, like no matter what's going on a file, whether it's something from setup to all the way to servicing. If your partner's asking you to take ownership of it, you've got to, and does it fall in my lane, does it not fall in my lane, whatever it is, if they're coming to you like to find the solution, you take ownership of it, and you find them that solution.
Unify through collaboration, or yeah, it's better than dividing in silos.
Yeah,
I
no,
always try
that
to
that
think of things in opposite terms.
yeah, silos just never work.
What would you how do you own unique?
Um, just by being me.
I
Yeah,
love that.
it's just, I'm not probably everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, and that's
They're
okay.
drinking, then they're drunk. They're drunk on something wrong.
Yeah, but
Crazy.
and I think, everybody, you have to be yourself in this business more than anything, right? Like, and I can't put on, a facade, right? I'm me, so you just own unique, be yourself.
Mm. Carrie, this has been a master class. I've got more questions than I had when I started.
Oh my goodness, I saw you taking notes there, Jay, feverishly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a lot more because what I really would love to dive in next time is, you know, if I'm putting on the armor of an account executive, I've been in the space long enough to know that I want to serve at a greater level. How do I actually transform? If it's like I want to get my like yourself. Hey, someday I might want to be in the you said news interview. I'm sorry, an anchor,
News reporter? Yeah.
news reporter. There's an education for that. There's
Hmm.
prerequisites for that. So if we're putting together that prerequisite, if I'm going to put on that suit of armor that I am this account executive, I have all these countless lives that I'm affecting because I'm thinking
Hmm.
all those homes are coming through you.
Yeah.
I'd love to unpack more deeply the next time we do this a master class on like how do I put that armor on and carry that weight? Right? What are those idiosyncrasies
Yeah.
so I can succeed at the highest level? But this was a great for me. The big takeaway for this conversation was like the values, the character of to be a professional in your business. So thanks so much for your time today. Very amazing.
Yeah. No, thank you for the time. Thank you for the great questions. And thank you for being willing to meet me on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, and thanks for caring because I that's an interesting one that you shared. It's like, yeah, if someone doesn't, right? I try. I've talked this in my own context. Like, I don't think it can't be faked for long.
Yeah. And people know when you don't care. Like, that you
You
don't
can
care. People
feel
know.
it.
Yeah.
So
And
I
they're
would
not
challenge.
passing you the baton if they don't feel like you care.
Where can the audience follow you? They want to connect with you, do business with you. We have so many broker partners that listen to the show. I mean, we have close to 100 coming on in 2025 alone. So, what would be
Yep.
the best way to contact you to
I,
you'll be able to have a
yeah, you can
conversation
find
and
me
get
on
to know?
Facebook, on LinkedIn, here at EPM, K Cole at EPM.net.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you all for listening to the Culture Matters podcast. And remember, start each day with gratitude. Stay curious, ask questions, continue to learn, remain consistent and loyal. Be the servant leader you'd want to have, give back and care for others. Kerry Cole. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast, and we will see you next time.